The brain can't tell the difference between reality and imagination. So when you tell yourself, I can't, your brain will say, okay, I really love her and it is my job to protect her. So since she believes she can't, I am going to make sure that she's right about what she thinks about herself.
Hello, and welcome back to the Sharice Williams Show, the podcast created for nurses turned holistic health coaches that are looking for a resource to create, launch, and scale their own holistic health coaching businesses. I am Sharice Williams. I am so excited to be here with you today. And we have a very, very special guest. Oh my gosh, none other than Dr. Deborah Fryer. Hello, Dr. Deborah. How are you?
I'm great. So happy to be here with you, Sharice.
I'm so glad you're here. You guys, so let me formally introduce Dr. Deborah, and then we're going to hop into our discussion today, which is, we're talking about money blocks. We're talking about money blocks and more specifically, how to heal those money blocks. So let me tell you about Dr. Deborah. Dr. Deborah Fryer. Deborah is a money mindset mentor, spiritual business coach, and creator of the Anatomy of Money system for holistic wealth and well-being. She helps heart-centered entrepreneurs break through subconscious mental, emotional, and financial blocks so they can create sustainable, soul-aligned 6- or 7-figure businesses with ease, speed, and confidence without working harder, feeling guilty, downplaying your success, or selling your soul. You are speaking my language, Deborah. Deborah holds a PhD in comparative literature from Princeton, and she is an award-winning filmmaker who has created content for PBS, Nova, Frontline, the National Science Foundation, and other media channels. She also has a pre-medical degree and has been teaching and practicing yoga and meditation for over 30 years. Her unique blend of ancient wisdom, modern science, narrative medicine, and creative visualization has helped thousands of business owners around the world change their minds, their mindsets, and their relationship to money, power, and true wealth. Deborah's also a best-selling author of Best Brain Hacks, Turn on Your Tap, and the forthcoming Anatomy of Money, Your Inside Guide to True Wealth. You guys help me welcome Dr. Deborah.
Thank you so much.
You are so very welcome. Is there anything, tell us a little bit more about you. Is there anything that we missed in that beautiful intro?
You know, it's so hard to describe oneself and put oneself into a box. And so I like to describe myself sometimes like an electrician, in that I help people reconnect the circuitry when they go dark around money. When we want to not make an offer, when we're afraid to ask for a raise, or we're afraid to chase a late payment, or we're even afraid to say, here's what I recommend for you. You know, there's a way that we're quite conditioned to hold back and to not be in a place of authority and to not value our knowledge and our expertise. And when that happens, our whole nervous system short circuits. We blow a fuse, we get anxious, we get afraid, we stutter, etc. And the whole Anatomy of Money system came about because I was super sensitive to how my own body's nervous system was putting the squeeze on me and my own ability to make the kind of money that I wanted to make and to express in the way I wanted to authentically express as my whole self. I'm a spiritual business owner. I'm a soul in a body. I am energy packed into this, Tupperware that is stewarding me through this life. Yeah. And really embracing the multidimensionality of myself as both energy and matter was the path through. And so that's what we're going to be sharing with you today, because y'all are healers and y'all are very aware that there are, I'm doing air quotes, scientific instruments that can measure energetic frequencies, as in, the magnetic field of the heart, the electromagnetic field of the brain, certain chemistries in the blood and in, cellular components. And, all of this chemistry is measurable because it is energetic frequency and energy. And money follows the same laws of physics and biology and chemistry. So I came at this really kind of sideways, but I love sharing this, especially with sciencey people, because I feel like it's going to land in a whole new way in your body.
Yeah. Oh God, that was so great. There were like 15 things I want to ask you just in what you just said. And I always say this, you speak my language. Like, I think, so Dr. Deborah and I have known each other probably 3 years now, maybe going on 3 years. And it's not often that you find people who speak your language. So when we're talking metacognition, we're talking science, we're talking electromagnetic fields, we're talking cellular level, we're talking those, I'm like, yeah, she's my people. And how money plays a part. It's all energy. We're all energy. We're spiritual beings, right? Having a human experience. And I don't recall our initial conversation, but I'm like, oh, it's just a breath of fresh air. Yes. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you. Let's talk a little bit first about, well, how did you get here? You said you kind of came with this sideways. How did you get here?
I totally came here sideways. So, even when I hear, how did you get here? Well, like the way I came into Earth at all was kind of hilarious. According to the story in my family of origin, my mom was taking birth control pills because she didn't want to have another baby. Mm-hmm. And I slid in while, the birth control was supposed to be keeping me out. So clearly I am supposed to be here. I have a mission. I have a message. I'm supposed to be here. So I slid in. So there's my mom pregnant with me, 9 months pregnant. And it's time for me to come out. And so she goes into labor. With my sister, she was in labor for 28 hours. So she calls the doctor and she says, I'm in labor. And the doctor says, great, meet me at the hospital. So the doctor thinks she was in labor 28 hours. I'm going to go get my car washed. So the doctor goes to the car wash. My mom goes to the hospital. And I immediately flew out before the doctor even got there.
Wow. Yeah.
Add to this that I was breech, which means I was upside down and I was backwards. And I don't know why I didn't turn, but I didn't. Which now I look at it and I'm like, well, I know why you didn't turn, because you were meant to come in upside down and backwards, because you see the world as it truly is, which is that we've been conditioned to see it as upside down and backwards. And I see it the way that it actually is. I see this high level perspective, which is what I'm here teaching and sharing and modeling with my writing and my painting and everything that I create. Anyway, so I flew out, but because I was breech and I was upside down and I was backwards and I came out so fast, my mom tore. I tore my mother. Yeah. The co-creative birth process resulted in my mother hemorrhaging. And the story also goes that I nearly killed my mother. And so I got immediately wrapped into a blanket, whisked off to the infirmary. They stabilized my mom. They brought me in the next day. And they thought that I was a boy because my heartbeat was so strong and I came out so fast. And I guess nobody bothered to check. I don't know. But apparently they wrote down my name was David on my birth.
David?
Mm-hmm, David. Huh. So my mom the next day unwraps the blanket and she sees, this thick dark hair and these big eyes. And yep, I've got 10 fingers. And she unwraps the blanket and I've got 10 toes. And she looks at the rest of me and she's like, well, this is a girl and I thought I had a boy. And I guess, in the retelling of it, what I'm sure must have happened is that my mom was out of it when she was hemorrhaging. So maybe she just didn't realize that she'd been told she was having a boy, because when I was in utero, they couldn't see from the ultrasound because I was upside down and backwards. And my heartbeat was really, really strong. So they said, okay, that must be a boy baby. And then I was born, and anyway, who knows? So I came in with this kind of, message of, I'm not supposed to be here and I'm not the right sex.
I'm not right. Yeah.
Right. I'm not right. There's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And then my mom, in those days, breastfeeding wasn't in vogue. So my mom gave me formula, and the formula had vitamins suspended in corn oil, to which I was extremely allergic. So I was born this super healthy, vivacious, energetic baby, and I started losing weight. And I got down to 4 pounds, and I went back to the hospital, and I was diagnosed with, get this, failure to thrive. And like my whole body's like, zzz. Oh, fascinating. No wonder my little soul came in. And, unbeknownst to me, I'm now aware, but at that moment, I didn't realize that I needed some really challenging conditions so that I could be a model of, yes, of thriving.
Yeah.
And teach others to thrive. So, fast forward like 40 years, and I'm a starving artist. I'm a yoga teacher. I'm a meditation teacher. I'm a filmmaker, and I make films about the environment and sustainability and biodiversity. And I travel all over the world making art and telling important stories for public television, but I don't make a lot of money. And so I thought, well, I better go to medical school, because if I go to medical school, then I'll become a real doctor. The Princeton PhD doesn't count. In fact, I took it off my resume.
You already had it? Oh, you were.
I already got a PhD from Princeton, but people said, you should take that off your resume. It's intimidating. So I took it off my resume, and I felt like I'm not a real doctor. I don't make any real money. I've fallen through the cracks. I don't get any real respect. And I can hear, as I share this story, my mindset at the time was, I was so interested in invalidating myself. I was so interested in discounting my value and my worth, my expertise, because, I was carrying this, like, you can't thrive. You can't thrive. Like,
that's how you entered the world. That's how you entered the world failing to thrive. And then that carried forward. So 40 years, 40 plus years
for
later.
40 years. Yeah. And that was the subconscious message that I kept repeating. And when you tell yourself you can't thrive, you're giving yourself instructions.
Absolutely.
So even if I tried to thrive, even if I made a pile of money, my subconscious would be like, you better get rid of that really fast, because you are not allowed to thrive. Like, your identity is somebody who is failing to thrive. Who do you think you are if you're thriving? It was so deeply in my subconscious, but my nervous system was really, really aware of it. But my conscious brain that was in charge of everything was like, no, I'm working really hard. No, I have this fancy degree. No, everything's fine. And meanwhile, I was having panic attacks every damn day. I was having nightmares. I was waking up screaming every night. I was so stressed out on the inside. So off I go to medical school. And in the middle of this process, what'd you say?
So what a way to enter medical school, or anything in that, for that matter. But yeah.
Right. And in order for you to go to medical school, you have to have completed all these pre-medical requirements. And of course, my PhD is in comparative literature. I speak 12 languages. I'm a spiritual yogini who meditates and paints and plays the cello. And
none of those classes counted towards.
I didn't have any of them. I didn't have a single one. So I had to go back to school and, take biology and chemistry and organic chemistry and physiology and anatomy and statistics and psychology. And I ended up working in an anatomy lab for 2 years. So, fast forward 2 years, I'm ready to apply to medical school. In fact, I think I did apply. And we had a flood in our town. And the room that I'm standing in was filling up with water. And it was basically gutted down to the foundation. The walls went away, the windows went away, everything went away. And it was extremely expensive because I wasn't working. I was on my way to medical school. So I was actually spending money because I was in school and I wasn't working at the time. And it was about $50,000 that we were immediately in debt. And then a couple of weeks later, my dad dropped out of a heart attack. One day he's reading the news and the next minute he's stone cold on the floor. And the day after my dad dies of a massive coronary, it's my job to go into the anatomy lab and take the heart out of the cadaver.
Interesting.
And I was like, I can't. And my teacher said, of course, you don't have to. But I meditated on it and I thought, I can't not see what killed my dad. So I went into the anatomy lab, removed the heart from the cadaver. The cadaver happened to be a man, same age as my dad. And the cadaver had also died of a massive coronary. And you can see it in the heart because the heart is supposed to pump in a coordinated fashion. And when there's a massive coronary event, it pumps and empties and pumps and empties. And so one side was full and one side was empty, which is not how it's supposed to go. And as I was holding the heart in my hands, it was like the planetarium for the crown chakra opened and the entire universe rushed in. And I could see in that moment, and I could feel in every cell of my being that I had been running my business and living my life completely counter to the laws of nature. I wasn't letting myself receive. I wasn't letting myself sleep. I was skipping meals. I was not exercising. Like, I was so overextended on one side, so overgiving on one side. And I was so rigid about, oh, I can't get paid for that. I can't charge for that. That I was just creating this complete IT show in
Yeah.
my life. And,
Yeah.
it was just so obvious that if I didn't shift dramatically and immediately, that I was going to be just like my dad, just like Becca Deborah, that I was just like, the level of stress that I had internalized was just not tenable. And I remember walking out of the anatomy lab that day, and I looked at the trees and I said, how do you do this? How do you transform in a way that's so beautiful and easy and graceful?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, just watch us, we'll teach you. So I sat on my meditation cushion for about 6 months, and I cried and I journaled and I meditated and I went for walks and, did all the mindset stuff that we're going to be talking about. And then 6 months later, the phone rang, and it was a film client. And they said, hey, we have a project, and the budget is 10 times higher than what it was the last time you worked for us. Can you help us? And I was like, yeah, I can help you do that. And then the icing on the cake is that, here I am, Princeton PhD and award-winning filmmaker, and I had 99% in the GREs, and my GPA was like 3.97 out of 4. Like, I thought I was a shoo-in.
Right.
And I'm an older candidate, so I thought, I'm definitely going to get in. And I remember having the interview at the medical school, and they said, what do you think is the thing that's most responsible for a patient's healing? And I said, I think it's the story that the patient tells themselves. And they said, did you hear what we asked you?
Yeah.
Is it
not too much?
Is it your knowledge? Is it the test? Is it you as a doctor? And again, I said, yes, I heard what you asked. What do I think contributes most to a patient's healing? And my answer is the same. I believe the story that we tell ourselves is critical to our well-being. And I didn't get in. Yeah. And I was devastated. And, in retrospect, it was the perfect constellation of every energetic chakra being out of whack, like dissolving and completely falling apart, that opened the path for what I am now teaching and sharing with, hundreds of thousands of people around the world. The foundation of our home literally, was destroyed. It was destroyed by water, which is second chakra, and then my relationship with my father, which is third chakra, and then the heart, and then, using my voice to speak and feeling so afraid to speak, and then, this identity that I had of myself as I'm going to be somebody who gets real respect, and then that went away. It was like, well, clearly none of that's supposed to come from out there. All of it is an inside job.
It is all an inside job.
And here we are. That's why I got here.
That is, thank you for sharing that. It's so interesting. There's so many interesting facets about that, about what you shared, about your life story, and how all of those circumstances completely, totally translated or coincided with the different chakras. It's just a really fascinating story. And so there were so many things that came up. One of the things that came up that I definitely want you to delve a little bit deeper into is, the stories that we tell ourselves, because everyone that's listening to this, if you're on this earth, you've been telling yourself stories all along, every day, all day, whether you say them verbally, whether they're audible or inaudible, you're telling yourself a story, and it's reinforcing everything. And so I think the most important thing, is first recognizing that as truth. We are always telling a story. And every time we tell that story, it is hardwiring in that belief. It's hardwiring. And because of that belief, that determines how we move about the world. That determines how we make decisions. That determines everything. That determines how successful we will allow ourselves to be in business. That determines how bold we will allow ourselves to be. And so let's jump in. Let's jump in right there about the stories that we tell ourselves, and particularly as it relates to money.
Well, you just said it so beautifully. The brain can't tell the difference between reality and imagination. So when you tell yourself, I can't, your brain will say, okay, I really love her, and it is my job to protect her. So since she believes she can't, I am going to make sure that she's right about what she thinks about herself. Mm-hmm. And, you are your first patient, you are your first client. And so I sat down on my meditation cushion and I heard myself say, I believe that the story the patient tells, is really the thing that will determine their well-being or not. And so I had a beautiful opportunity to look at the stories I had been telling about myself. Failure to thrive. Really? Do you want to keep telling that story, or do you want to start thriving? So I had to start seeing myself as someone who thrives. I had to start seeing myself as someone worthy. I had to start giving myself respect instead of dishonoring myself and outsourcing my respect to external conditions, right? That really disempowered me. I had to start allowing myself to be paid. When the client came and said, hey, we've got 10 times more budget than we had before. Can you help us? I had to create a budget that honored me and allowed me to get paid instead of giving everything away for free. And some of these things, are so hardwired in our nervous system. We're so not used to receiving support, to receiving payment, to allowing ourselves to charge for certain things that we absolutely need to be charging for.
Yeah. And it's disguised under, if I may add, it's disguised under, oh, well, I just like to help people. And and who am I to charge for helping people? And, and we've been kind of programmed to think, oh, everything we do should be, or at least as it pertains to health and health care, should be altruistic. And if you do charge, then it's all about the money. And so we're getting all these messages, all this programming, all this indoctrination. And so, if you want to pick up from there.
Yeah. And that thing about, oh, I'll just do it for free. Oh, who am I to charge? That's actually operating from a really insidious scarcity mindset, because what we're really saying is, oh, I'll just give you this for free. I'll just suffer for you. Oh, I don't need to pay my bills because you're having a hard time paying your bills. Oh, I'll just make it really, really hard for me to pay my team this week or this month because you didn't pay me, but I'll just take that on because I'm such a kind, generous person. And then it becomes kind of like a drug. It becomes kind of like an addiction where I need you to need me, right? If you need me, then I show up as somebody that you need. Right now we're in the land of manipulation.
Yeah.
And we realize, oh my God, I'm so manipulative. I need you to need me, right? And it shows up in such a codependent way of I need you to be broken so that I can fix you.
Exactly.
We need to clear that. We need to clear that patriarchal dominant paradigm of, oh, the woman is just here to support the man. The woman can just give more. She can just serve more. She can just serve herself last. All of that stuff, if unexplored, will continue to run. And you might have received that in your family of origin, but ask, well, where did my mom learn that? Where did my dad learn that?
Yeah.
And look historically at the cultural context.
Right.
Were you, in a concentration, were your ancestors in a concentration camp? Were your ancestors slaves? Were your ancestors indigenous people who weren't allowed the freedom, to use the resources on their own land, et cetera? Like, none of us has to look very far to see a few generations back where there was a dominant paradigm, a dominant culture that was doing its best to suppress them. Right. And I'm here to invite us all to remember further back than that dominant paradigm, because the patriarchy came about 5,000, 7,000 years ago, but humans have been walking the earth about 300,000 years.
Right.
And all of us came out of Africa.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of us.
Every last one.
Yep.
Every last one of us. Yeah.
Yeah. And if we go further back than that, all of us came here because there was this thing called the Big Bang. And out of this cosmic explosion, all of these, elements happened to, shatter. And this particular planet, there's one water cycle that surrounds the entire Earth. And we are all drinking from the same water cycle. We're all experiencing the same rain, the same drought, the same, climate change, drastic weather conditions, whether it's fire or floods or hurricanes. We're all in this together. We're all breathing one envelope of air. There is one planet. And, at the source level, we're all wanting to be heard, wanting to be loved, wanting to be valued, wanting to be respected.
Yeah.
And I really believe that when we heal the conflict within ourselves, when we heal the argument and the rejection and the self-shaming and self-judging and self-criticism that is operating internally, it is so beneficial to help others do that inner work. And when we do the inner work, we create conditions of collaboration and compassion and love and healing for everyone. So I really believe, from the biggest cosmic view that we can have to, the microcosm of the cell, everything is a hologram of everything.
Yeah, so true. There was a question I wanted to ask you, and then it totally left. You're such a phenomenal storyteller. I'm like listening to just the whole story, and I'm like, oh man, I forgot what I was going to say, but it's okay. So much richness. Like I said, that's one thing I love about our conversations. Earlier on, you mentioned about money blocks. You mentioned about, well, actually, we were talking a little bit off camera about the wounded healer. Share with our listeners, what are money blocks, and how do we know that we have them?
So I'm going to describe money blocks from an energetic perspective, and then I'm going to describe them from another energetic perspective, which is known as matter. So Einstein tells us that energy is both wave and particle, and money behaves in this really beautiful transformational way that it's both energy and particle. Right now, there are millions and billions of pick your currency, of dollars and pesos and yen and whatever the currency is. Like, all of that money is electronically moving through the world, and it's moving through the air, and it's moving through you and me right now. And energetically, you just need to reach out your hand and say, yes, please. The energy of all creation is what the energy of money is. Now, the symbol of money down here on the earth plane, we've projected a whole bunch of garbage onto what we think money is. So, the short answer is money is whatever you think it is. So if you think that money is manipulative, that it's misogynist, that it's controlling, that it's evil, that it's, you can't be spiritual and you can't be rich, that money is the root of all evil, if you have beliefs like this, then you're going to want to understandably distance yourself from money, because you don't want to see you as the root of all evil. You don't want to see yourself as manipulative. You don't want to see yourself as causing harm to other people. And if you believe that money is, causing a lot of harm, you're going to want to distance yourself from it. So subconsciously, you might be, unwittingly, this is what I was doing, you might be unwittingly saying, oh, no, I don't want to charge for that. Or, oh, no, don't pay me for that. Or, oh, no, I'll just give you that for free. Or it might look different. It might be like you have a 6-figure year or month or week, or, you might have a windfall of inheritance, or you might win the lottery, whatever. However the money comes to you is not the point of this. A whole bunch of money comes in, but your identity is, no, I'm not the kind of person like that. You're going to find a way to get rid of it. You will have an accident. You will have a house repair. You will have, a vehicle that needs a repair. You will have a health crisis. There will be some subconscious reason why you got to get rid of that money. Or there might be like, oh, my kid needs it for college, or I need to help my parents. But there's going to be something that shows up that you're going to be like, nope, I need to get rid of it.
And it's not that it shows up. I just want to make this clarification. It's not that it just happens to show up. We're creating it, right?
Yes.
Because our belief is, I can't have this money. It's not safe for me to have this money. I'm not the type of person that has this money, or whatever. Someone recently shared to me, I asked her, and this is actually something I just want to kind of pose to those that are listening, just complete the sentence of what money represents to you. So money represents blank, and just the first, without overthinking it, just insert, what you think. And I actually was having this conversation with a client the other day, and she said, money represents livelihood. And I said, okay. And I said, and interestingly enough, she was having challenges with enrolling clients. Well, of course she would have problems or challenges enrolling clients. Not that what she has to offer wasn't, valuable, not because the transformation that she's going to provide was just amazing, but because she equates money with livelihood. So why on earth would she ask someone for their livelihood? That's her relationship with money, right? And I just again, where I interjected was, it's not that these things just happen to pop up. We create them to coincide with our belief, to validate our belief. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
So let's tie this in with money blocks.
Yeah.
When you realize that you're the creator of your reality, when you realize that you're a powerful creator and your belief actually highlighted the path, illuminated the path so that you could see that thing that was in alignment with your belief, you don't have a money block. Because you're like, oh, I created that so that I could see I was bigger than that. So when you have the money block, your perspective is that thing happened to me. That external condition happened to me, right? And both things, we see both things all the time, right? So people who have money blocks will say, and that's why I said you'll see this, because you don't actually realize that you created it. The minute that you see that you created it, you've just reclaimed your power.
That's true.
But so many people are used to giving their power away. And so when one has a money block, one will give their power away and will say, look at the external conditions. I don't have any money, therefore I can't blah, blah. I don't have any time, therefore I can't blah, blah. Whether it's I don't have time to exercise, or I don't have time to start my business, or I don't have time to whatever it is, hire my next coach, whatever the thing is, there's an external condition that is responsible for you. Yes. And if that's your come from, that is a money block. So the money block isn't the actual thing, it's your perspective on the thing. Yes. It's your reaction to the thing. So this is a perfect kind of conversation around which one is more empowering. Something happens and you react to the thing. That's a money block, right? If you can react to the thing and you feel disempowered, you feel not enough time, not enough money, not enough support, that's showing you that you're operating from a mindset of not enoughness. Mm-hmm. If your reaction is, oh, isn't that interesting? Look what I created. Look what a powerful creator I am. Wow. Yay me. What opportunities here for me? That's not a money block. That's a huge, magnificent opportunity for you that you created.
Yeah.
So it's not the thing, but it's your reaction to the thing.
Yeah, so beautiful illustration. So glad that you make that distinction. Very powerful, because it's night and day. It's empowered. This happened to me versus look at that. Look how creative I am. Okay, so if I created that, then what else can I create?
Yeah, and also our body will show us. So if you think about, let's say, your current income, and you write down your current income, and you look at the income right now, and do you say, this is how much money I'm making right now? Does your body react? Do you start having thoughts that say, oh, I should be having more. I didn't make enough. I didn't meet my goals. I suck. I should just quit my job. This is too hard. I'm not cut out for it. Or, are you super flush right now? And you look at how much you have right now and you're like, yay me. I have so much money, which is really great because I can support myself because nobody ever supported me. Like, just notice what are the words that are going through your head. And those words probably are going to activate some kind of physiological response. Mm-hmm. So often when I ask people, look at your income right now, and say it's not enough, or isn't it enough? Mm-hmm. And how does it feel in your body? And so many people, when they look at their income, they'll say it's not enough. It's never been enough. It's never going to be enough. I work really, really hard and I can't work any harder and I don't have any more time and I'm already exhausted and I'm already burnt out. And oh gosh, like, so many nurses I've worked with, so many naturopaths I've worked with, so many people who are like givers and compassionate and kind and generous, and inside they're really suffering, right? Because there's a disconnect between their deservingness, and so they overgive because they don't feel deserving. And you bet their nervous system is showing it, right? And so you'll feel, like, a money block often feels like a narrowing. It feels like a constriction. It feels like pressure, like we're being squeezed. And the good news about that is that only happens when you grow, right? When you're a baby and you get bigger and bigger and bigger, you start eventually feeling the squeeze of you're outgrowing the space you're in. That's why you feel the squeeze, right? And then, it's time to be born. It's time for you to grow to your next version of you. Yeah. And the same is true with the money block. The only reason that you feel a money block is because you've outgrown that old version of you.
Yes.
You wouldn't feel it. If you were totally comfortable living there, you would have no problem with it. You'd be like, this is my story and I'm sticking to it. As opposed to, oh, I don't have any money. And when I have money, then I'll da-da-da. Well, if that's the story, you're actually telling a story about where you aren't. Right? Like, let's tell a story about where you want to go rather than the past and staying stuck in the past.
Right. Because as we mentioned before, everything that we say is a directive.
Yes.
Everything that we say is a directive. So what directive are you giving yourself? And it's all a choice too. I think the first thing is, just recognizing and having that level of awareness. And then the second thing, once you have that level of awareness, like, oh, okay, then I get to choose what I say? I get to choose the directive. I get to choose to shift out of this space of lack and scarcity and separation. And I get to choose something different. And the answer is yes. Yes, you do. Yes. You do.
And now we're in the land of empowerment, right? So a money block also, is a sneaky way that we disempower ourselves.
Surely.
It's a way that we say, I can't, or I'm not ready, because we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want it. We're afraid of other people's judgment. We're afraid of making more money than other people. We're afraid of feeling guilty. We're afraid of, inciting the wrath of God if we come from a very strong religious tradition, right? And it feels real and it feels scary. And so we need to tenderly, explore and integrate this. I think that money blocks really are nervous system traumas that are unresolved. And that we need to resolve the nervous system and learn to self-regulate and co-regulate so that we feel safe in our power, safe in our self-expression, and safe in our freedom to be who we are, whether or not there's money, right? That we take the power back from money so that money doesn't get to define you're a success. Right. No, I'm successful because I am. You, money, don't have any power over me.
Yeah.
I create you, I'm the one who created you, right? By putting my gifts, my courses, my products, my paintings, my art, my cookies, whatever it is that I'm creating and putting into the world, that thing that I've created, because it delights me to create and share that thing. Other people want it and they say, yes, please. And then in exchange, I receive, what we call money, gratitude. Support, praise, recognition, right? It's not always even money that we're after.
That's true.
In fact, most of the time, it's not money that we're after. It's recognition. It's appreciation.
Yeah.
It's love.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. All of that. So you've shared with us, what money blocks are, what they aren't. How does it have an effect on our business? How does it have an effect on our business?
A money block has a very real physical, emotional, financial, and spiritual effect on your business. Materially, money is the lifeblood of your business. You need money for your tech stack. You need money to pay your team. You need money to pay yourself. You need money to provide yourself with the team support so that you're not doing everything on your own. And team support includes people who do the stuff that you're not really good at. So it's going to include people who do technology for you if you're not really good at that. It's going to be people who help you with your next level mindset growth if you're not really good at that. A lot of healers are very analytical. A lot of doctors, especially people who spend a lot of time in medical school, are very left brain, very analytical. They're used to looking for problems and solving problems. And so you're used to operating from your left side of your brain, which is a problem creating kind of brain. It likes to solve problems. So if there aren't problems, your brain will go and create some problems so that it has something to do, because that's what it's really good at. So just honor that's what your brain is really good at. And, if you've been trained in the Western medical tradition, you've also been trained to not be emotional and to not show your feelings and to not even feel your feelings, right?
That's a whole nother topic, not feeling your feelings.
Yeah, but this is related to you making money because it's material. Your body is earth. Your body is physical. And when you suppress your feelings, what happens? When you suppress your emotions, what happens? Inflammation goes up and you start experiencing dis-ease. You experience discomfort. You might have dysbiosis. You might have migraines. You might have high blood pressure. You might have insomnia, right? And if left untended and unresolved, eventually, it will become more of a disease state. And then you really have to pay attention. And your body's been saying, hey, pay attention to me, pay attention to me, pay attention to me.
Yeah.
But you're not used to paying attention to your body. You're still living in your head. So physically, this is something that will show up for you if it hasn't already. It showed up for me and it kicked my ass, which is why we're having this conversation. Put my ass right on the ground on the meditation cushion. It was like, you cannot continue living your life the way you're living it.
Yeah.
So emotionally, water is the second chakra, which is related to creativity and money and relationship. So it's going to affect how you are in relationship with yourself. If you overgive and overgive and overgive, guess what? You're going to, number one, deprive yourself. You're going to become resentful. And if you keep giving everything away for free, you're going to be overworking. It's going to affect your relationship at home with your family and with your kids. It's going to affect your feeling good about yourself, because the harder you work and the more that you're pushing and struggling and hustling, actually, the harder it is. And so you're going to have less money flowing through you. And so, there's a real emotional consideration. If you don't have the money to sustain your business, you're going to feel bad about yourself. You're going to feel like, I'm a loser. I can't do this. And so you've got a lot of inner work to do, right? It's really going to affect your motivation and your morale and your esteem, which is going to affect your team's motivation and morale and esteem. And it's going to affect your ability to really serve and help your patients at the highest level, which is what you're here for in the first place.
Right.
It's going to affect you financially, of course, because if you overgive and are not able to express emotion and are not good at accessing feelings and aren't good at integrating the full spectrum of the emotional range that you're here to have as a spirit and human body, it's like you're chopping off your arm. Right? If you won't let yourself feel certain things, you won't let yourself say certain things, it's like you're chopping off a body part. You won't let yourself fully be in the world, and then you'll never feel whole. Which leads me to the next one, which is you've just pinched yourself off from source, because you are whole. You came in whole. There is nothing that you don't have that source has, because you are source in a body. And if you can't allow your whole self, your whole physical self, your whole emotional self, your whole wealthy, supreme, magnificent, sovereign self to be allowed to exist, you'll never feel fully whole. And that lack of wholeness will drive you to chasing things that are out there. In fact, the wholeness is right here. It's never not here. And there is no part of you that doesn't belong. Your anger belongs, and your frustration belongs, and your sadness belongs, and your badassery belongs, and your amazing vegan mango pineapple upside down cake belongs. And like everything that you bring and are is worthy. So, long answer to your question.
That's everything.
When we pinch ourselves off from money because we believe we don't deserve it, or it's too hard, or I can't have it, it affects us at every level of our being.
Yeah. So beautifully, eloquently put, eloquently described. And so we've identified, what money blocks are. We've identified how they even show up, right, in our lives. We identify where they even come from, family of origin, our indoctrination, whether that's through religion or society or whatever the case may be. Interestingly enough, our relationship and our beliefs around money, the interesting part of that, it wasn't even ours. It was given to us. It was given to us. But the beautiful part about that is that we can choose to change and heal our relationship with money.
But what was also given to us, right? Like if we say, well, that was given to us by our parents, that was given to us by our culture. Yes. And what was also given to you, which doesn't negate that stuff that was given to you, but there's more that was given to you, which is the all that is being given to you over and over and over and over.
So true. Yeah.
Let's not forget that, because that's the all that is also available to you. Not just the stuff you were given, but all this other stuff that you were also given that you forgot you have access to.
Right. And that's a big piece. All the stuff that we have access to, but we forgot. Yeah. And so we've talked about what we've been given, what it is, how it shows up, all the different areas in our lives that it affects when we have money blocks, emotionally, financially, in our business, all the things. And so I know we only have a certain amount of time. However, can you share maybe just one way that we begin, now that we've identified, oh, okay, I see that because I understand what's going on as the people are listening, is that they're like, oh, okay, this is why this is happening. This is why this keeps happening. This is why this keeps showing up. So can you give us maybe one piece, one little nugget of how we can start to heal our relationship with money?
Meditation. I mean, anything that will bypass your conscious mind will be helpful to you, whether it's EFT, emotional freedom technique tapping, or breath work, or pranayama, or yoga, or dance, or being in nature, or swimming. There are so many ways, EMDR, brain spotting. There are lots and lots of modalities that will help you bypass your conscious mind. Meditation is fantastic because it will create this space for you to observe that you are breath in a body. And the minute that your consciousness lands in the body, it's no longer in your head. Now you're in your body. And the body vibrates at the relaxed alpha frequency, which is the frequency of nature. It's the frequency of creation. It's calm, it's clear, it's still, it's peaceful, it's abundant, it's resourceful, it's resilient. It's beautiful, it's nourishing, it's grounding. And when we're in the beta, which is the brain state that the conscious mind likes to hang out in, we're looking for problems, we're in arousal. And so meditation and training yourself to follow your breath will help you drop your consciousness into your body. And once your consciousness is in your body, you can just watch your breath, and the minute your brain wanders off, because that's what the brain does, it's like a little puppy and it's curious and it's going to wander off over here, you just lovingly call it back the way you call a little puppy back. You come back to the breath, and then you watch your brain wander off and you call it back. And as you practice this over time, you begin to become aware, which is what we call metacognition, watching you thinking about thinking. You become aware of how often you wander off into the poison ivy of self-judgment or self-criticism or rumination or living in the past or catastrophizing, right? You begin to become aware of some of the brain's patterns. And when you become aware of the pattern, you're no longer identified as the pattern. So that little bit of spaciousness is incredibly helpful at helping you realize, oh, I have way more control than I thought I did. Now you're off and running to feeling empowered. You have a mind. You're not your mind.
Not the mind. Exactly.
You have thoughts. But what allows those thoughts to exist? You do, because you're thinking them. You let that thought live rent-free in your temple. So meditation is such a beautiful habit. If you have it, fantastic. Keep doing it. If you don't have it yet, start and make it be your daily go-to until it becomes automatic so that you're in this meditative state all the time. And then whatever arises, you're like, oh, isn't that interesting? Isn't that curious? Isn't that beautiful? Rather than immediately reacting to it and feeling like it's wrong and I got to fix it.
Right. Being the observer is a huge part of our growth, evolution, healing, is being the non-judgmental observer, right? Because there's a difference between observing it and, like you said, judging it versus, isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And I think it's super valuable to be a judgmental observer too, because you got to observe yourself being judgmental in order to realize, oh, I don't like being so judgmental. I don't like how that feels.
Yeah.
So there's value in all of it, you know?
Agreed. I would have to agree with that. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Very, very, very good stuff. God, this is so good. I'm going to have you back on here. I'm going to have you back on for another episode, because we've uncovered so much. And I think everything that you've shared today has been incredibly, tremendously valuable. One, for those who weren't even aware, I think what you've done is really helped to raise the awareness around what's really going on. What's really going on? For those who were aware, I think what you did today was help them kind of deepen the understanding of what they were aware of, but didn't really know what to do with that awareness, right? And so I would love to have you back to kind of dive more into so many things, but really to dive more into, okay, now what? And so, which really actually really just brings me to, if as people are listening, if they're at this juncture, they're like, oh my God, like, yeah, everything she said, that part. How do people get in touch with you? How can they find you? What are some resources? Share that with us.
Yeah, thanks for asking. And those of you who are listening, thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being curious about your mind and how you can really turn your mind around so that you, the soul version of you, are master rather than you being slave to your mind. There are lots of ways. I'm very omnipresent, just like the non-physical version of all of us is omnipresent, is everywhere. So you can find me all over the internet. If you just type in Deborah Fryer, you will find me. You can come to my website. I have a free Facebook group that's called the Anatomy of Money Academy. You're welcome to join there. I have a free gift. Those of you who'd like it, it's called Turn on Your Tap. It's an introduction to EFT, emotional freedom technique tapping. And I believe there's a script in there for tapping for, it's either $30,000 or $50,000. So that's a super fun way. There are also lots of free meditations you can find on my podcast, the Anatomy of Money podcast. I have started sharing meditations. And so those are absolutely free for you. Listen to them, practice with them, relax with them, and, allow yourself to receive the worthiness and the deservingness that you are.
I love that. And thank you so much for sharing that. What I'm going to do for everyone is I'm going to link all of that. Well, not all of it. She said so much, but I will link the best ways to get in touch with Dr. Deborah below in the show notes. So that way you can connect with her. She has so many beautiful resources. I'm excited about the meditation. And so again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your generosity in sharing all that you've shared with us. And I just appreciate you and love you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate you and love you too.
Well, have a great day. Thank you all for listening to this phenomenal episode, you guys. Cannot wait for next week. Can't wait for next week for the next rendition of the Sharice Williams Show. Super excited. You guys have a great rest of your day, and thanks so much. Bye for now.